you tired of living paycheck to paycheck while others build lasting wealth? Introducing Money Mondays, the show that's changing how families think about finances forever. Each week, we break down the strategies and mindsets that create generational wealth. We're not just talking about getting rich, we're talking about building a legacy. Join us every Monday and take the first step toward transforming your family's financial future. Money Mondays. Because true wealth isn't measured in years, but in generations.
Peace and blessings, everybody. This is Damon K. Jones here, and welcome to Black Westchester Magazine Monday Mondays. This is our kickoff show, and here we are talking about generational wealth. How do we keep money in our pocket? And we're going to be bringing on guests. I am not a financial expert. I repeat that again. I am not a financial expert, but we're going to be bringing guests on to talk about investing, talk about real estate, talk about starting businesses, talk about doing our taxes. We're going to be bringing experts on, because one thing that we do not do in the Black community is we do not discuss finances enough. So we do not have to look for white people to give us Black jobs. We can have our own businesses and give jobs to our people. And I'm going to have a guest tonight. This brother, he's running a little late, trying to get himself set up. Drew McWilliams, he's a commercial real estate investment sales agent. He's associate director of Ariel Property Advisors. And one of the things we wanted to talk about, he just come in, but one of the things we wanted to talk about is affordable housing, not low income housing, but affordable housing. If you go to blackwestchester.com, I have a great article up talking about the lack of affordable housing for Black professionals. This is something that we don't talk about enough in Westchester County. We don't have these discussions how Westchester is actually is a segregated county. There's Black people only in a few towns throughout Westchester, but we're going to have this conversation because real estate is a way to bring generational wealth, and when we lack real estate, we lack a good avenue to generational wealth. We're going to bring my brother in. Welcome, my brother.
How you doing, my brother? I'm just pulling over right now because I want to. You dived into so many different things, man. we gonna get right into it.
We've been talking about doing this a long time, man.
Yes. Long overdue, man. And I just want to appreciate your platform. I mean, a lot of people don't even know, what you really do in the community. You're really out there every day, and it really means a lot, man, for you to have me up here. And it's funny because you dived right into it on the topics, but when people say affordable housing, I think one of the main things is obtainable housing, right? It's not even just necessarily low income, as you said. It's people that can afford a living that don't qualify for low income housing, Section 8, but they don't make enough to buy a house per se in Westchester, right? That could run you north of 700,000. It's something that I don't think a lot of people pay attention to, that you're very big on, is health and wellness. And I remember being on a panel years ago listening to some professionals speak, and one thing they highlighted was how people spend so much time in their car, hence I'm driving back from work, but how people will work somewhere, not be able to afford to live there, and then spend so much time in their car that it leads to depression, it leads to health issues, diabetes. I mean, the list could go on. So when you're talking about this, it's very important because it pushes things in a direction, in a conversation that needs to be had, where nobody does anything for those people in the middle those people who don't necessarily make enough to be able to afford, a home or something like that in Westchester, but the people who don't qualify for Section 8 either. So
Right.
that's
Yes, sir.
that's that's an important thing.
Yes, sir. Did you invite a brother to come on?
No, did I? I thought, I'm sending a link to people like that. I'm thinking they could watch
They
it from
watch
there.
it.
My bad. I'm thinking that's how that they watch it. I'm sending them the wrong link. Can you send me the link so I can have people watch it?
It's right on. It's on Black Westchester. You go to my
Okay,
page on. You could go to my. You could go to my page on Facebook.
got it.
Yeah. But brother's here, and he's. I think he can still. I think he can hear us. So it ain't no
Okay,
problem.
it's all good. It's all good.
He's in the green room, and he can hear us. No, absolutely,
Okay.
man. Because I've watched a lot of people. Like when I started the job in '90,
Hmm.
it was a lot of cats was going to just to Rockland County,
Right,
and then it just got further and further and further up.
right.
And I'm in Middletown, and I'm like, damn, I should have bought a house in Rockland County in the '90s. You know what I'm saying? Instead of ended up buying a house up here in Middletown. But you could not find a house brand new, from the ground up, brand new, under $400,000 in Westchester County 6 years ago. You couldn't find it. It's no way, because we looked.
So, it's funny because I think one of the biggest myths that comes is like, as you know, we all became super emotional in certain ways when it comes to
Right,
politics.
right.
And we have this perception like this big bad developer. Everything is a big bad developer. Everybody hates people that built the property since Trump been elected, right? But the truth of the matter is, if you don't have enough programs incentivized for people, because I saw you point out in the article about people developing rentals over condos. If you don't have enough properties incentivizing people to develop affordable housing, the developer is not just going to build something and lose money, right?
No,
Because
absolutely.
then what happens is they end up just like, the person who can't afford to live somewhere. They're building somewhere and then they can't afford to live there, right? And then it comes
Right.
down to the other thing where, I have a mentor of mine that's developing a property in Harlem, something dope. And you got politicians, Democratic politicians, protesting his development, talking about the AMI levels. But the problem is, right? I remember I was at an event, I want to say about a year ago, and a gentleman named Craig Livingston, he partners up with Dawn Peoples on a lot of things. He said the good thing about why we need mixed income housing is you want the kids to see doctors, you want them to see
Exactly.
attorneys, you want them to see
Exactly.
you want them to see these people living in these communities. And a lot of times what I hear from developers is like, they're like, yo, I'm not into fighting, Drew. Even when me as a commercial broker, I get to see it because I bring them the property and I say, hey, why don't you want to build there? And they're like, man, I'm not into fighting. I'm not into fighting.
Wow.
And one of the biggest things is people are not into fighting. When it comes to building housing, you're having people protest you.
Oh, well, Drew, where you go, man? Drew, where you go? Oh, we lost Drew. Let me see if he come back on. Yeah, we're here talking with Drew McWilliams about real estate. I don't know if his phone went dead. Oh, there we
Okay,
go.
well, good. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh, you went back out. Oh, all right. All right.
I don't know.
Oh, now you just went back out again. Them cell phones is tricky when you're trying to do interviews. but he'll be back in. So what we're talking about is the need for affordable housing for working people. And Drew was saying that a lot of the developers, they do not want to have a hassle with the politicians in dealing with. They rather have low income housing than what they might call workforce housing or housing for the middle class. Let's bring brother back in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
No, it's
Somebody
all right.
called me
It's all
and
right.
it just threw off everything. Hold on. My family's asking me right now where they can see. I'm going to tell them go on to Black Westchester. Hold on. Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me, Dave?
Yeah, yeah.
All
Tell them
right,
to
we're
go
back
Black
in.
Westchester YouTube. If they go to Black Westchester on YouTube, it's right there live. Oh, you're going in and out, brother.
Yeah, I'm just texting them right now. All right,
Okay.
so yeah, my bad, man. All right, so what I'm saying is, you know, even with a program that they called 485X, I'm not gonna get too much into it because I don't know if people could understand, but this is a program meant to incentivize developers to build housing in our communities. But the problem is those things don't really pencil all the time, right? And the
Mm,
other problem is with New York State is, and like I said, it's important for people to understand that New York State has it had a super majority of one party rule. So I
right.
think a lot of people get things confused when you look at it and you say, why don't we have this in our communities? And it's like, brother, all you got to do is go talk to that person who we keep voting for. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Exactly.
It's like all you got to do is go talk to those people, and the thing is, what the problem is in places like a Westchester or New York City. Like, I was born and raised in Harlem, and I can tell you a lot of my friends, they live in Dutchess County, they live in Orange County, like you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, you know what I mean, because it's just not feasible for them to live here anywhere in New York City. And I think Westchester, though, has a unique opportunity. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I say that is because you do have people who actually listen, right? And who I could
Mm-hmm.
say you don't have. I mean, I feel like sometimes with the party as a whole, you might have people who virtue signal, but I feel like Westchester still has that middle ground where you
Right.
have people up there who actually listen. Like, I have productive conversations with the county legislator from Mount Vernon, my brother Tyree.
Yeah.
Tyree, I don't want to mispronounce his name.
Woodson, Tyree
Um,
Woodson.
Tyree Woodson, very good brother. Good friend of mine sits on the city council in Mount Vernon, Ed Poteet. And it's funny
Mm-hmm.
because I saw Ed the other day and I'm like, Ed, people are praising him in New York City, who I know, black developers, because they're like, yo, I think Mount Vernon has a chance because he's up there advocating for certain things. It's like in New York City, you cross you walk across 241st Street and the politics completely change. It's like
Right.
it's just there to beat up real estate professionals. And I mean, commercial real estate is a $25 trillion industry in this country.
Mm. Mm.
And we should be encouraging our community to get involved, whether you're owning a piece of real estate, whether you're investing into a piece of real
Right.
estate, whether you want more housing in your community. And I kind of got to give a little bit of agree to disagree with this point. I do believe in Westchester, like you said, it could be very segregated, but I think one of the biggest reasons why is that wealth gap that we have in our community.
Exactly. Exactly.
If
Exactly.
if you can't afford to live somewhere, you can't afford to live there. And what real estate investing did was give people the opportunity to gain wealth. I mean, you know, what a lot of people fail to realize is you had something where somebody might have went out and bought, let's say, a 4 or 5 unit, right? And had the other units paying for their mortgage, and they're able to
Right.
own homes, and they're able to take that investment and
Right.
invest in other properties. The problem becomes in New York State, you can't evict somebody for not paying rent.
I know.
It's
That's what
like
that's what
somebody
that's what kept me out of the real estate business, bro. In New York.
you can't evict somebody. So when we talk about this, when we're talking about housing and all this type of stuff and building wealth, how do you build wealth when it's like you get three tenants in there and all of them say, "Fuck you, Damon, I'm not paying you." It's like, you know what how can I build wealth? I'm losing money at that point. What if
Exactly.
my property
Exactly.
gets foreclosed on? Or
Exactly.
Damon, let me tell you the truth, man. I sell these properties. And when I bring it to people and try to praise it, yo, you need to develop here. You need to develop here, right? It's like a lot of people be looking like, man, I don't want to deal with a fight. Then we have politicians that only
Man, where you go, man? Oh, there you
oh,
go.
all right, yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, we have politicians that the only thing they're thinking about is moving up the ranks. So when they think about moving up the ranks, they want to do things to get votes.
Exactly.
And if that means picking a fight with the big bad developer, no matter what color he is, that's what I'm gonna do. But
Right.
essentially, that hurts us, man, because
Yeah.
the wealth gap is like that. And a lot of people say, well, they only want to build affordable housing in certain areas. And I got to take another controversial stance. I agree with Rob Astorino when he said that, and I'll tell you why. He pointed out something. He said people have to have access to certain services and transportation when you think about building these houses. These aren't typically people who drive, right? If you're going to
Hmm.
build low income housing and you put it in Chappaqua and the bus and somebody has to get from Chappaqua, they have to maybe get to their Section 8 office. They have to get into the city where they're working or something like that. You have to factor in all these type of things when you're thinking about building housing. Because I could tell you as a commercial real estate agent and change my viewpoint, because when I'm looking at a property for an owner and I'm thinking about selling it on behalf of the owner, they get something called a transportation bump, meaning people want to live to properties that are in close proximity to transportation
Temptation. Hmm.
because it makes their lifestyle a lot easier. You know, if I value a property, for instance, on 145th Street, right next to the express train into Midtown, you know, that property is going to be worth more than if, and I'm using it in New York City terms of Harlem, if I value it, let's just say, on St. Nick Terrace, where it's kind of like, you know, in between train stations and harder
Right.
to get to transportation. So when you talk about places like Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, White Plains, they really have that advantage where they have train lines that run directly into the city. I mean, some of these small towns, you know, and let's not act like the Metro North is not expensive.
Right. Well, this is what I didn't understand about Mount Vernon, that they didn't have a balance of low income,
Mm.
affordable housing, and high
Right.
income. Because of the fact that it's surrounded, it's surrounded by highways. It has
Yes.
what one, two, three train stations. Dude,
Yes.
it's right there, right next to the subway. Right. So it is a perfect area to even have high income living. But for the last 30 years, they just been building low income housing.
But the thing is, because that's what the government, that's what HUD incentivizes, right? And
Mm.
then, like I said, even if you, so let me break it down to you on what's deemed affordable. The government deems that you should not be paying more than 30% of your monthly income on rent. On rent, on a mortgage, they want you to pay 30%. That's what's considered affordable,
Hmm.
right? So if somebody's doing it like that, if somebody's making $10,000 a month and they're paying $3,000 a month on rent, right? Which nowadays is not even that much. You know, somebody making 120,000 a year, a correction officer, a cop. You know, it's not necessarily housing for them. They're gonna say the
Right.
AMI levels are too high, and then even when you want to get bit deeper, right? Even when you go advocate for that change, I mean, I don't know the inner workings of Mount Vernon politics, and like I said, I really have a lot of respect for Tyree and Ed Poteet, who's on the city council up
Right.
there. But I will say in a lot of communities, the first thing we say is displacement, right? And it's like you don't want to see doctors. You don't want to see, because I know a lot of black professionals that would love to live somewhere like in Mount Vernon where it's close to them
Exactly.
to get in
No,
the city.
absolutely, absolutely.
I
But
know
I don't understand.
attorneys. I know attorneys. I know doctors, and I'm talking about young people that would love to live there just because my generation we're more focused, not taking anything away from your generation. I think my generation have made health and wellness a big part. And one of the things that we realized was that transportation that goes from a Middletown to a Manhattan, you know what I mean? It's so hard to focus on your health and wellness when you're doing that 4 days a
Tell me
week.
about it. Tell me
You
about
know
it.
what I
That's
mean?
why I retired, man. Once we bought the
Yeah,
house, and I got, because that drive, that drive was remarkable, and it takes
remarkable.
it takes a, and I tell my wife now, she leaves in June. I'm like, let it go. let it go.
But
You know what I'm
but
saying?
that
Because the drive is just enough. Is it takes a toll on your body.
so my question becomes, and I want to challenge people: when do y'all stop talking at people who can make the difference? When do
Right.
y'all stop talking at them? When do y'all stop letting y'all politicians talk at these people? Right? And
Right.
now we could go down a rabbit hole. I didn't vote for Trump about all the messed up stuff that he's doing. But your reason for lack of housing, your reason for it not being affordable, he's not the governor of the state of New York.
Exactly.
He doesn't
Exactly.
control the Senate and the Assembly. When you
Exactly.
talk about a place like Mount Vernon, where um, you know, certain things are needed, and Dame, you've been calling out that city for years to turn it around, right? Where you yourself have been in the midst of things, but the people that could be there, like I said, I have a lot of respect for a lot of elected officials there. I mean, that city is ran by Democrats, but maybe the city isn't getting something. I remember I called up to a radio show years ago and I spoke to Ernie Davis, and Ernie Davis told me out of his mouth on a radio show that some of the most attention he got from Mount Vernon was from George Pataki and Rob Astorino.
Mm-hmm.
He said that, right? And he
Mm-hmm.
said it was funny because when Pataki ran for re-election in 2002, he was like, on his last term, he was like, he told him, Ernie, I've been taking care of y'all. You might as well just endorse me. Ernie's like, man, I can't do that. When he ran
Right.
against Carl McCall, but he knew, like, he would probably win. Even me, I,
Exactly.
I, I grew up in Abyssinian Baptist Church. Pataki opened up Thurgood Marshall Academy with Reverend Butts, God rest his soul. So it's like, you have to work with the people who are willing to make change happen. And development isn't a bad word. People wanting to bring high income earners to your neighborhood, it's not bad,
Right.
man. It's actually a good thing. And then the worst part about it is y'all attack a lot of these black developers. I have mentors of mine who are doing nothing but building housing, and they get tore up. And it's like,
Exactly.
it'll hurt them more because it's like, damn, I'm trying to help the community. And
Absolutely.
that's the problem here in New York. You go to Atlanta, you
Oh,
know
it's a
what I
whole
mean?
different story, brother. It's a whole different story. Atlanta for black businesses, for black entrepreneurship, and people working together, just people working together. It's another planet from New York.
Yes, 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 yes. And the thing is, right, when you go to these places, it's like they want to bring business there. And
Exactly.
I'm the reason why I felt like so imperative is, I see a lot of the trolls in the comments arguing with you, right? And whenever you say something that they don't like, and it's so funny because I remember I told one brother who was in the comments with you, I'm like, me and not putting it out there, me and one of your children, we attended a HBCU back when it was underfunded together. You know what I mean? We attended the National Treasure, Morgan State. I just was back at Morgan State for homecoming, and I can tell you, man, it's amazing what they did with Morgan State. And Baltimore might have a way to go, but I'm looking at Mayor Brandon Scott and the
Right.
brother Wes Moore, and I'm like,
Exactly.
they have completely, turned that city around.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's from incentivizing business. It's from incentivizing development, man.
Yeah.
And while you can get caught up in the headlines every day about what's going on in the federal government, please understand the federal government is not responsible for the housing shortage. It's not
Exactly.
responsible for the people that empathize with you, that brother that came up, and he's now a successful developer. Your politicians should be talking to him. What can I do to have you come build in my community?
Exactly. Exactly. I know a guy now. Him and his wife live in Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon taxpayers, and they've been dealing with the city of Mount Vernon to get the old YMCA and some property around it for 10 years, bro. 10. They've been going back and forth for 10 years, and we have watched white developers just come in, get approved, get built, come in, get approved, get built, and they're keeping it's not really low income because they're saying from $50,000 to $80,000, right? That's they're keeping it 50 to 80, and they can't, and it's like it's like for them and the city to pull teeth. And not only that, they're putting like a community center on the bottom where they teach kids computers, all these different skills and stuff like that they're already doing. And it's like, you don't think that the community needs that, but you let these white developers that don't give nothing to the community, don't have nothing in the community, and you just fall over for the white developers, but the black developers that want to come in, you just give them holy hell.
Because the thing is, right, when it comes to that, people do things to people that it could affect. So you as a black man, when you make the comments and you point out something, I watch this all the time on your page, that Trump did correctly, right? You
He's
got
like,
a
I see
whole
it.
bunch of people in your comments tearing you up, right? Because they feel like the black man, I could get to him or I want to push it a little bit more. Same thing that black developers go through. When they go into
Wow.
these places, they get pushed because it's like, I'm just looking at it. If I'm a career politician, with this white developer that I'm gonna protest, right? It's not gonna affect him, but maybe I could affect you. Maybe what I do could affect you, so you have to have him my way, right? And it's
Right.
great that they're saying, so it's like it's kind of like that personal relationship where it's like I want to push his button a little bit. I want to push things my way. And I won't say it's just with black developers. I mean, I watch white developers get a hard time. I just think what happens with them is with black developers, we have a harder time. You see a harder time with black developers raising money. So when they're not
Right.
as
Yep.
cash strong, they can't deal with the issue. When
Right.
you come at somebody who's worth triple the amount as that black developer, it doesn't get anywhere. They got the
Right.
money to cut through the red tape, or they got the
Right.
money just to where they don't even have to come to the table and negotiate with you.
Wow.
But like I said, when you're dealing with the black developers, particularly, um, it's like people want to push them. I mean,
Mm.
I hear these stories. I mean, these are horror stories. You would think that you have with black developers, that the way that they're treated, even sometimes by the community, it baffles me, man. And as a person who gets to see this on the front line, like when I'm selling properties, I am telling people, yo, you need to invest into this community.
Right.
You need to invest into this community. This is great. when it's a piece of land there, that's what the city should be doing. The people you're electing, the people who are controlling these local governments, it's like sell your city to somebody. Tell them why they need to be here, why it needs to be investments into here, right?
Right.
When we have a whole financial literacy movement that was started by brothers coming out of Westchester County with Earn Your Leisure, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
like they have kind of led the way with this black financial literacy movement. I mean, I think, but on a positive, I do believe that with County Executive Ken Jenkins, I think certain things are going to start moving forward. I'm optimistic about it. Um, you know, I think it's real potential there. Because I'll tell you who has done a good job with that, in my opinion, and I would like to hear your feedback. People don't always like him, but I think Mike Spano's done a great job with Yonkers.
Oh
I
no,
remember,
I've known that. Yeah, Mike Spano. Listen, Mike Spano. I've known Mike Spano for over 30 years. When I first started working for Westchester County, he was the assemblyman. He was the
mm-hmm,
assemblyman, and I was good. I knew Nick Spano. At that time, Nick Spano was the senator, and then
mm-hmm,
cousin Joe Spano was our union president. Now Joe Spano, now Mike Spano is the mayor. Nick is retired, and Joe Spano is now the commissioner over at Westchester County Department of Corrections. So I know the Spano family real well, and yes, he's doing a great job out there, Yonkers. He's bringing businesses. He's
yes,
developing,
yes,
and that's what that's what you're supposed to do. My problem is that we don't see our black elected officials, doing the same thing. It shouldn't have took damn near 20 years to build Memorial Field. Like that does not it doesn't make sense. And then you don't have it's the best piece of land. You don't have any type of what commercial or any type of restaurants. There's nothing to bring the people in, and they don't even have a full functioning hospital.
you know,
So these are the things, but you got to bring more money to bring those type of working class people in. The Mount Vernon school system is down to 6,000 students. 10 years ago, it was 10,000. So people are leaving the city, and they do not have a plan to change it around. When we're talking generational wealth, and we're talking a black city, a black one city, it starts there. And I tell people all the time, when you were talking New York City, blackness, black economic development, black political power started in Harlem. It was Harlem. Westchester, it's supposed to be Mount Vernon. I really, and people say, "Oh man, you just no." Just look around. If we just look around and see how things work, there was a hub. Harlem was the heartbeat of black economic power, black
yes,
culture in the five boroughs. It wasn't Brooklyn. It wasn't Queens.
yes,
It
yes.
wasn't even the Bronx. Even though hip hop started up there, it wasn't the Bronx. It was Harlem.
Eh,
Harlem was the heartbeat. Mount Vernon is the same way, but it's just like we don't. There's not a collective mind to see that, so we could address it to that fact. You know what I'm saying?
I understand exactly what you're saying, and I'll take it a step further, right? What's my man's name that's on CNN? Vance, what's his name? Cy Vance. I was at a conference when Cy Vance was speaking, right? And he talked about the AI revolution that's coming. And Cy
Mm-hmm.
Vance said, everybody, we want everybody involved. He said this, he said, but I'm gonna be real with y'all. He said, I'm gonna take it back to W.E.B. Du Bois. He said, some of us was born with just a little more knowledge than others, right? He
Mm-hmm.
said, kind of like the talented Tim. So we have to allow them to lead, to allow all of us to be able to be a part of this.
Right.
So when you're talking about something like this, you're right. It can be the hub. I think the issue is the leaders. Who are you having out there advocate for you? And then you have to have somebody that's willing to come in and do it.
Right.
You got to show people, hey, I could build high income housing here, and people will move here. You know what I mean? And it's tough because when you're trying to incentivize people to do it, you know, like you just said, 50 to 80,000. But what about that attorney that I'm telling you that's fresh out of law school, right? Working for a
Yeah,
white
that's
shoe
what I'm trying
firm.
to tell you.
They
That's
don't
it.
fit in that tax bracket of the 50 to 80,000.
No,
You know
no,
what
but
I
that's
mean?
exactly. That's why it needs to be higher. But that's the highest he going, right? But that will encompass maybe some
Right.
teachers because
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I heard
Absolutely.
teachers complain that they couldn't find any place to live in Mount Vernon, and they teach at the high school, and they
Teachers,
teach at one of these schools.
this country has done a huge disservice to our educators, man. I mean, the
Absolutely.
fact that most educators can't afford a place to live is a problem. But I'm here to tell y'all, it's not the people who you think. You know, they're always gonna say, point to that greedy developer, point to the guy in Washington. It's not that, man. You never gonna hear somebody say they don't want to make money, right?
Right.
And
Exactly. Exactly.
if you incentivize people to come, I think the real question is, man, when do we sit down and say, why don't people want to be here? Right? Why don't people want to build here? What are we
Right.
missing? Right? What are we missing? And then it's like those questions start to have to be asked when we go up to Black Caucus in Albany. I was just telling somebody, man, I remember going out to Congressional Black Caucus last year in DC. And if you ever been to Congressional Black Caucus in DC, every state has a party. When it was the New York party, when I tell you, um, for one, we weren't out there. I couldn't even get a ticket. And when every state had like their, you know, you want to say like the it's like going to the tunnel back in the days when y'all used to. And every neighborhood had theirs, right? Or back in my day, we went to Club 11. You know,
Yeah,
dudes who
yeah,
went who went clubbing, and you brought your whole neighborhood, right? So
yeah,
you would have
yeah,
thought
right,
we'd have brought our whole neighborhood in New York. And I'm looking around, and it's just like we're not there. Opposed to even our brothers in New Jersey, they out there deep, you know,
right.
and we see cities get revitalized. Look at Newark. Mayor
Yeah,
Raz Baraka
he's doing
has
his thing.
done, he's done it. And you know what's so funny with Raz? Raz balanced it, right? Raz brung in the relateds, the L&M, these big institutions that's not ran by black folks, but he's also giving black developers a chance.
Right,
It's a balance of both.
right.
Where it's like, I'm going to bring my people in to rebuild, but I'm going to bring these corporations in to invest into the community because I want the business community to see that this is a good investment. And Norcast took it different. We watched Baltimore do the same thing. So when you talk about a place like Mount Vernon, it has the potential to do that. It's just about, I won't even say it's on the elected official because I met the mayor, and I think she's actually pretty good. I mean, I don't know enough about her. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know her policies, but I can tell you she's been in the room with real estate professionals, and I see them trying to sell the city to developers, meaning like they're trying to tell people, yo, Mount Vernon is a good place to invest in. I've watched her do that personally,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're never going to get somebody you agree with 100%. But when I
Right,
tell you, a Congressional Black Caucus, she's out there telling people y'all need to invest in the Mount Vernon. The question becomes when she gets somebody's ear, right? And then they start digging in with these laws in New York, and then they want to digress. Why is that?
right, right,
Because if I'm
right,
going to put up with a headache, I might as well put up with that headache in New York City, where I'm going to get much higher rents.
right, right. Let me
So,
tell you a story, man. Let me tell you a story. It was Capelli,
mhm,
right? Now you know all the things Capelli done built everywhere, right? Before he went to White Plains, and I'm not gonna call no man's name out of respect. But we know the time frame before White Plains blew up, and then people can figure it out, right? Before he went to White Plains, he went to Mount Vernon. And he told me in my face, I'm not paying nobody to spend my money. You understand? He said, I'm not paying. He said, I don't pay anybody to spend my money. If I want to come and develop, we're going to work out as partners, but I'm not paying you to develop. So, and he went to Mount Vernon first. Happened what he said happened. What he said happened. And he went to White Plains, and the rest is history. the rest is history on how White Plains look and how Mount Vernon look.
And so it becomes a question on when we talk about generational wealth, when we talk about all these things. I'm kind of like an advocate because I do get to sell and work with owners, the developers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm an advocate on their behalf almost because I see like they're making a living. Even if you're gonna say they don't care, like people get too emotional, right? It's not a marriage. You look for your spouse to care about you. You look for some family members to care about you.
Exactly.
The thing is, it's a business transaction.
Exactly.
You come in my community and build, as long as my community looks better, you're bringing certain people in, you're bringing certain investments in.
Exactly.
It's going towards the school district.
And
that's
they're
the only thing
employing
I care
people,
about.
and they're employing people from the city to do the construction on the building.
Right. So it's so many different moving pieces that go into this, right? A lot of times people have black GCs that they're hiring. It's so many different moving pieces that's going into it. It's like we're missing the conversation, Dame, on what we should really be advocating for.
Right.
Right? We're not advocating for the correct things, We're advocating for housing, but nobody's saying how it needs to be built. I'm not going to call out certain politicians by name, right? But I just saw a representative I had a lot of respect for talk about a rent freeze. And I was kind of taken aback, like, well, when you call out a rent freeze in a broad stance like that, do you understand black folks own some of these buildings and make a living off of some of these buildings?
Right.
And it punishes them too.
Right.
And it's like we talk about generational wealth, we talk about wanting to create opportunities, but when it's time to get down to it, we don't know how to cut through the red tape. Yo, if everybody got fired up behind they do about certain things and put pressure on our elected officials in Albany and said, man, I don't need somebody to have to go through X, Y, Z. What y'all are doing is making people not want to invest into our communities and build. We would have a totally different housing boom come in New York if they did a better job of incentivizing people. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things to talk about. Even bringing it back, like I said, well, us not being out there in D.C. like that, it just showed how many young black professionals have exited New York. Because I can tell you when Atlanta was out there deep.
Oh, all the time.
Houston was out there deep. And then my question becomes, those are both red states.
Exactly. And they living better than us. Blue state.
Like, it's just like, and now granted, they got a lot of things going on. I don't need to be told slavery benefited black folks.
Yeah, listen, we ain't got no, we talking about right now, economics, they doing better than us at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And the problem becomes, it's like, it's a disconnect. But then, like I said, I won't even just make it on that. Shout out to the Governor Westmore and the Mayor Brandon Scott of Baltimore. This is
they
a
doing
blue
what they're
state,
supposed to do.
blue city. Like I said, me and one of your children were out there in Baltimore. This is in the early 2000s when we were going to school. But when you look at it now, it's a totally different place. And that was a black mayor, a Democratic mayor. So this is not about partisan politics. This is about putting the pressure on the elected official that wants to get things done, that wants to
Right.
cut through the red tape and say, you know what, I want this and the third. Like I said, I know a Democrat, Tyree and Ed. I'll continue to shout them out. I could hit Tyree up right now, and he's gonna listen. You know, he wants to bring business to the city. When I talk to him, right? He wants certain things to happen. So we're not in any way, shape, or form. Ras Baraka is a Democrat. Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey, right over there, is a Democrat. So it's just about the mind state of the people that we're putting in power. And us not advocating as a community enough, saying, listen, you know, we don't need the pep talks and the good speeches anymore. We need to be able to own. We need to be able to make
Exactly.
some real money. Like, you know what I
Exactly.
mean? We need to be able to make some
Exactly.
real money, and we need to really sit down and have these conversations. And then it needs to be, oh, you know what? Look, this is gonna be the plug because I always throw you out there, right? If
Mm.
if such and such wants to sit up there and fight with the black developers coming in, I'm gonna donate to Damon's campaign, who's going to challenge him in a Democratic primary
That's what
because
we supposed to do.
he's
That's
more
what we
popular
supposed
on
to do.
economic development. You know, even if we
Exactly.
say this is a blue city, all right, so vote somebody in that, because there's plenty of Democrats about economic empowerment. It's not just a
Right.
Republican thing, right? So
Exactly. Exactly.
vote somebody in who's going to push that agenda forward. We need more
Exactly.
housing. We need laws that don't just handicap an investor, because that investor is me, Dame. That investor is you. That investor is your child. I'm telling you,
Right.
when you think you're hurting the people, like we're gonna hurt Trump's friend, dude. If you think them dudes that's around him care about you not paying rent, right? They got the attorneys for that. You could tie them up for
Exactly.
2 years. You don't hurt their
Exactly.
bottom line, but you hurt me.
Exactly.
You hurt the, you know, you
Exactly.
hurt Damon. You hurt the black developer who's coming into your community, and you know, wanting to build, who doesn't have as much capital. You hurt them when you put these laws into place. You know, they got something called good cause eviction, where I won't go into the detail, but it's like not paying rent is not good enough for not evicting somebody. Like, you have to have a good cause.
On good cause to put somebody up.
You gotta have a good cause to put somebody out. So.
So brother, what the people that are watching,
Mhm.
what would you suggest? One, should they start if they got a little extra money on the side and involved in real estate, because it's hard, and it's hard for black folks to even get the down payment to get something nowadays, right? How do you suggest they should get into looking at real estate from a personal perspective? I'm just looking for a home, or investing in commercial property.
So I'm no expert. I only sell commercial properties. I don't know
Okay.
how they would look at it as a home, but I would tell you what I want to do, right?
Mhm.
I want to be able to alleviate as much pain as possible. So
Mhm.
what I made up my mind is, before, this is just my perspective, before I go buy a house, I would rather put some type of investment in, right? Because whether it's an investment property or whatever the case is, because you want some type of cash reserve. Because as I've heard, a lot of people, they always have trouble, always something's going wrong in the house, they say, right?
Right. Right.
So I would think you want to have some cash reserve. And I think it's about partnering up. You know,
Mhm.
somebody wanting to get into investing, we know it's hard, but it's plenty of ways you could do it. And one of the things is, changing our mindset, getting to the table with the people who want to build your community, because guess what? A lot of them have offices in your community. So when you
Right.
want to have some
Right.
capital, when you have some money, go have a conversation with them. I mean, I think one of the biggest things to do in that position is learn it, right? Because a lot of times what people want is to just throw their money somewhere and say, "Oh, the money's going to make sense for me," right? I remember hearing a brother talk saying, who's also a Westchester resident, develops property all throughout New York City, and he said, the one thing we don't have is time when we get successful. So if you could put in sweat equity, if you could bring to somebody a deal and say, I want equity in on this deal, then
Mhm.
I think that's the best way to get started because you're not
Right.
putting money in. But it's not a get rich quick scheme, right? Because
Right. Exactly.
you can't just ride past an empty plot of land and call Damon and say, "Hey Damon, I saw a piece of land over there." And then when they ask you the zoning, what could be built there, and the numbers and all of this stuff, the hard costs, the soft costs. So the first thing is to learn. I would say
Right.
learn about anything that you would want to do. And I would say to invest and partner up with somebody who's already there. And a part of that comes from changing the mind state where the successful black entrepreneur that you're seeing every day in your community is not the bad guy, but they're the good guy.
Right.
And going to them, sitting down with them, and finding out how they could be involved. Because I can tell you, not every single one of them, but I can tell you, I believe 7 out of 10. If you're serious, we'll give you the time, and an opportunity will present itself. So the first thing is by putting yourself in these places.
That's right.
One of the biggest things is different organizations in Westchester County. You have the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. I'm a part of the Harlem chapter. Um,
Mhm.
Brother named Kilimanjaro runs the Westchester chapter. Now, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers was founded pre the civil rights movement because black people
Mm.
weren't allowed to be realtors then. So we called ourselves
Mm.
realtors. So this is the first black real estate trade organization in the United
Really?
States of America.
No,
Yes.
that's dope,
And
man.
it's
You gotta put me on to the Westchester, man, so I could bring him on the show, man. And
absolutely. You know what? As soon as we're done, I will make that connection. And what they do is they actually have something coming up called Realtors Week, where every week in the year, every 1 week out of the year, what they do is different homeowner initiatives, different things about getting involved in real estate. And I'll tell you, the mayor of Mount Vernon, I think she's always around with that organization. She was out there speaking in DC last year. So even though you may not agree with her, you may come down hard on her, I can tell you, Mount Vernon folks, your mayor is out there talking about your city with pride. And
No,
when you
well,
talk
yeah.
about the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, she's right there during Realtors Week. For the people who want to get involved, go right there. Go to their events coming up. Dame is going to have him on the show. Go to their events. Begin having the conversation through organizations about what you want concerning your real estate needs, whether it's more access to home ownership. But I can tell you this, home ownership is never going to come without wealth. It's not going
Right.
to get any cheaper.
Right. Oh
The
no.
question,
Absolutely no.
the thing is, how do we make more money? And that's what Damon said to me when he texted me. Damon said, we need to start talking about money. We can't go through the next 4 years crying. And
Mhm.
the biggest thing is to get involved. Get involved,
Mhm.
and we need this sense of community of working together. And the other thing is you need, as Cy Vance said, that person who's going to advocate. You want
Right.
that wealthy developer to come in your neighborhood, build in your neighborhood, show the world that it could work investing into your neighborhood, particularly you focus on Mount Vernon, but you want that to happen so that other people come in. Because we have plenty of other black communities that needed things like Peekskill that's
Exactly.
further up north. A
Exactly.
lot of
Exactly.
people
Well, is that
always leave Peekskill
I
out the
focused on Mount
conversation.
Vernon because it's the highest population, but then you have Greenberg, which has the next highest population of black people. They're around 35, almost 40%.
Hmm.
But a lot of them are like I was telling my wife, the difference is a lot of them are already homeowners,
Yes,
right? In Greenberg. So there's not a lot of rentals. Most of them that's
yes.
there are third, fourth generation homeowners.
Because it's a lot of how do we say, it's mentality that's passed down.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the Black financial literacy movement, as we know it from my generation, the ones that really birthed it have came out of Greenberg.
Exactly. Exactly.
They came out of
Exactly.
Greenberg because it was passed down by their parents who own
Mm-hmm.
homes, who own pieces of property to strive for more.
Right. Absolutely.
And it pushed them to push it to the next level. So
Right.
that's the first thing, is getting involved and having these conversations with people you disagree about, people who don't look like you, people who look like you, people who you don't agree with their politics. It has to get to a point where we're advocating for us,
Right.
no matter who does it. It doesn't, their intentions could be whatever their intentions are going to be. If we're getting the best out of it, you can't worry about what somebody's getting out on the other side. Because like I said, Yonkers is no better example than Yonkers. Mayor Spano had lion gates in Yonkers, right? He
Exactly. That's
sold
crazy.
Yonkers to national companies to where they're like, we're coming and we're parking our money in Yonkers.
Exactly. Exactly.
You can live in Mount Vernon and still catch public transportation to work. That's
Exactly.
beautiful, man. You can
Exactly.
walk to the train from certain parts of Mount Vernon. That right there should be enough incentive for people to want to live there.
Exactly. Exactly. We just got to figure out why it's not happening.
We know why it's not happening though, because the people that we're sending up there feel like the correct terminology is the racism of low expectations.
Exactly.
They feel like they don't have to talk to us about making money because our we just need to be subsidized. We just need the bare minimum to get by. And I remember somebody said this to me, like, man, all black when are politicians gonna get all black people are not poor?
Exactly.
When are
Exactly.
they gonna
That
talk
too.
to us? When are they gonna talk to the black people who aren't poor? When are they gonna talk to that middle class black person that's like, you talk about where you drove from Middletown to Valhalla. What about those
Right.
driving from Middletown to Rikers Island? What about those driving from
Exactly.
Middletown?
What?
And we not gonna act like a large population of correction officers who are overwhelmingly black and Hispanic don't have to live in Orange County? Because let me break something down to y'all in case you don't know. If you're a New York City municipal worker, you're allowed to live in 6 counties outside of New York City. That's
Mhm.
Rockland, Orange, Putnam, Nassau, Suffolk, and Westchester.
And let me tell you, about 75% of my complex, and it's 300 units up here, about 75% in New York City workers.
So what about those people? Like,
Exactly.
when do we start catering to those individuals as well? But the problem is, when you start, it's like those people, they're focused on making a living for their family. They don't have the time to be at a protest, right? I knew some of them that literally told me all they go home to do is sleep, and they're right back at
No,
work.
that's it, bro. That's all, dude. That's all you could do. If you do a double, it takes you 45 minutes, and that's coming from Valhalla. So a dude from coming from Rikers is going to take him. It depends on how he drive and whatever. It's going to take him It's going to take him longer than that. By the time you get home, you take a shower. Like if I work 7 to 3, then I say,
Mm.
you know what? I'm going to work 3 to 11. Give me a little overtime. By the time I get home, take a shower, it's 1:30, almost 2 o'clock. But I gotta get back up at 5:30. No, actually 5 o'clock. Cause I gotta be by Woodbury Commons to make it on time at 7 o'clock. I gotta be there. I gotta hit that curve And to hit 87, I better be there by 10 after 6. I better be there at 10 after 6, bro. If I'm not there at 10 after 6, I ain't gonna get there on time. And then I'm still pushing it, because by the time you get on 87, depending on what's happening, it's gonna be crazy traffic in the morning. That's why I was midnights, tried it, went to day shift. Before I retired, I went back to midnights, bro. I couldn't deal with the traffic. I couldn't deal with the traffic, man.
And this is coming from you going from Valhalla to Middletown. So imagine the ones that are working in New York City. Now, what about the MTA? Hold on. What about the MTA drivers? Those that we are entrusting with our lives, that have to drive from stop to stop, get spit on, get everything,
Exactly.
the train conductors, right? What about them? Are they even a part of the conversation when we're talking about building housing? Where are they going to live? Because do they have to drive up to Middletown and come back? Let me not even start, right? Because I'm not trying to make nobody hot on the ones that I knew that had to live in Pennsylvania and just give an ad and just keep state registered to their mama's house, and they haven't lived there yet.
Pennsylvania used to be where everybody was going. And then it started moving up to Orange County.
This is the problem, though. The reason why they can't even do that is because if you get hurt on the job, New York City, they're coming to check.
Where you going to stay? Because they got to do a home check.
But it's so funny that we talk about who we could talk to. These unions will do a home check, but you don't even see the unions out here advocating for affordable housing. It's like, where are they in the conversation?
Exactly. They don't say anything, bro. They don't say nothing. And that's the crazy and that's the crazy thing too. You got to advocate. You got, well, I was saying this years ago, because you work for a county, you can't even afford to live in, and then they'll throw all that overtime, put all that in the paper, like it really means something. But at the end of the day,
not with these taxes in New York. not with these taxes in New York, bro. That overtime is like free money to the state. The longer you work, sometimes the less money you might see. You might have been.
But people don't understand that. You get taxed 40%. The federal tax is 40%, and it's like, yo, you gave most of your money to the government. COVID was crazy.
I've had so many family members. It's funny because I have family members right now that, both work. They're both retired New York City law enforcement, and they live in Yonkers. And it's good because back then when they was working their job, right? One worked in Bronx House, one worked in the precinct in the Bronx. They 15 minutes away, and they could afford to live right there in Yonkers. I mean, they have a nice home in Yonkers, and they 15, 20 minutes away from their job. They had it made. That's not the case anymore.
No.
That's not the case.
There was a little time in my life that I had it as far as living close to the job.
Mm-hmm.
I had it good, man. That was with my first wife. We owned a house over there in Parkway Gardens, basically over there by the Bronx River, but it was Greenberg. It was Parkway, but it was in Valhalla School District. So it was right like a stone's throw away from Virginia Road, right up in Valhalla. So we was right there, dude. It took me I blinked, just a blink, and I was at the jail. You know what I'm saying? That's how close I was. But things happen. But if I still had that house, I'd still be working, man. Because it was so close. It was so close. I would have still, man, I would still be going to work, man. Be like, man, bump that. I ain't got nothing else to do. I'm gonna get this money. But the distance does a lot. And you have police officers, you have firemen, you have just city workers not able to afford to live in the county or the city that they live in. So then they have to come up here. And then the population, the black populations, it grows less, man. You know, when we
It
was at the height,
decreases year over
yeah,
year.
it decreases.
Let me see,
It
Damon, you
decreases.
still
So
there?
yeah, can you
I
hear
might have
me?
lost my brother there.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, I don't
Hello,
know if Damon is coming back.
I'm here. It's you.
Shit, hold on.
I'm here. I don't know what happened. We had technical difficulty. The conversation started getting hot. This is Black Westchester Magazine. This is Money Mondays. And see if my man come back in. Drew Williams, Drew McWilliams. So we could just finish the conversation. But I hope y'all enjoyed. This is the first Monday. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. You
Yeah,
there, brother?
yeah, I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there. But
Yeah. So
to wrap this up, I want to first thank you for giving me this platform and allowing this conversation to happen. And I mean, immediately I'm gonna connect you with the Westchester chapter because I think
yes.
it's important for you to get him up here. Not only that, highlight what they're doing to make
Right.
everything as one.
Right.
The thing is that people need to give you your flowers, and I'm gonna say it is you are not scared. You are not a scared black man. So you will call out anybody when they're wrong. And a lot of people don't know about your career is you spent years in law enforcement, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like, you're calling out the people causing harm to the community, but you're calling out law enforcement when they cause harm to the community. So what I'm challenging everybody to do, and I already know Damon wants to do it, is let's start normalizing black economic growth. Let's start normalizing um let's start normalizing black developers coming in our communities and revitalizing them.
Absolutely.
And I think
Absolutely.
and I think one of the ways to do that is by bringing these conversations up. Let's say I'm the beginning. I think I took it to this part. Now it's time, for this conversation not to only happen, but to happen from a person who's living it. So, like I said, I
Right.
advocate on the behalf of the developers. Start bringing the developers up here. Start giving the people the stage that are trying to come in these communities, help it, revitalize it, and are getting beat up by the community.
Right.
Or
Right.
getting beat up by the elected officials.
Right.
So I think the
Absolutely.
first thing to do is um like I said, it's connecting, it's finding out things that are going on that week. And I hope to see everybody there. And to not just make this a conversation. Because one thing about Damon, man, he's out there in the community. You don't have to
Thank you,
look too
brother.
far to see him, right? He's not the standing up on a platform, and I really mean this. And like I said to one of his trolls in the comments, I'm like, dude, you don't even know who you're talking to. Like me and one of his children went to HBCUs back before y'all even acknowledged what we were. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Right.
So
Right.
back before y'all even wanted to even talk about, now it's the popular thing with the HBCUs. Shout out to former Vice President Harris. She shined a big light on that. But you
Right.
were there before that when you said, you
Yep.
know what, I'm gonna send my child to go get educated at an
That's
HBCU
that's right.
at the National Treasure. So one of the things is putting this out there. And listen, New York is ran by one party, and it's not the party that's the problem. It's the specific New York
Exactly.
party. We
Yeah.
have elections coming up.
For now,
Listen,
listen. For now, New York going red, brother.
and
Telling you,
you know
it's
what?
going red.
I,
It's
I
going
believe
red.
it. I I wouldn't be surprised. I'll tell you this much, right? And I'll leave it with this. If we're going off of data and not analytics, last time Trump lost New York by 21%, and then Lee Zeldin lost New York by 5%, right? So that was about a 16% swing. Trump lost New York by 10%. If you have another
Exactly.
16% swing in the governor's race, even if you
Exactly.
have an 11% swing, a 12, which is very possible,
Exactly.
because if you look at the history of gubernatorial races, right? If we're going back when Pataki carried it, all those years New York voted blue on a presidential level, and Pataki carried it on a state level. And I'll tell you this, right? You have elections coming up. Listen, you have city council elections coming up. Get involved. You have a platform right here that is I'm gonna say this, right? Somebody just put in the comments about the Senate being historically Republican, and I do want to wrap it up. I don't. We could be on
Mhm.
here all night.
Exactly.
2019, they changed the law in the state of New York called the Housing Stability Tenant Protection Act. All these old buildings that you're walking by in Mount Vernon, pre-war buildings in New York City, they decentivized owners from putting renovations into that building because they stabilized the rents. So while they're raising the rents by a certain percentage, your insurance is going up, your taxes are going up, everything's
Mhm.
going up, and it's harder for you to maintain these buildings.
Mhm.
So what winds up happening is nobody wants to just work for free. You know what they
Right.
do? They say, you know what? I'm not going to put in the work towards it.
Right. Right.
So when we had a split government upstate, meaning Republicans ran the Senate, Democrats ran the Assembly, and Andrew Cuomo was the governor, a lot of people might argue that New York mm, was ran better. You might have a lot of people that argue it. So I think as we leave off, it will be upcoming events for NARAB Realtors Week, right?
Right.
I'm connecting Damon with the head. He'll be up here before that. That Realtors Week is the second week of April.
Okay.
I'm connecting
Yeah.
Damon with them. They have big events in Mount Vernon, New Rochelle.
Okay. Great.
Come engage the real estate community. Second, me and Damon will talk offline. Um, Start engaging start lobbying. I'll leave it with this. Start lobbying the money to come to your community.
That's right.
Start lobbying the investments to come to your community.
Yep. Yep.
And Damon,
Thank you, brother Ree.
thank you for giving me this platform. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to have this conversation, man. And whatever I could do to continue to support Black Westchester, who I know has been on the front line, please let me know. Don't hesitate, brother. I will be connecting you. We'll be continuing these conversations. And I'm gonna leave people with these lasting words. Don Peebles said a quote. Damon reposted it, right? Remember, in politics, no permanent friends, no
Exactly.
permanent enemies, just permanent interests, right? The president will leave office. Your mayor will leave office. City council people will move on, right? Because city council is just a stepping stone. Everybody's looking to move up, right? What's not going to change is your community if you don't have these people advocating for it.
That's right. That's right, brother. You know, the economic development and generational wealth starts with advocating for yourself. And and I say it all the time. We have to start learning, and this is not anything anti-Semitic. This is saying this is positive. We really start have to learning how the Jews do what they do. They do it through real
They
estate, economic development, to culture, making
Yes.
making finance part of your culture, not niggerdom where we just out here just flossing and with no agenda, but making finance part of our culture. We have to do it. Pharaoh is letting us go. He's in the White House and he's letting us go. He's just saying y'all got to do for self. We got to take that $1.5 trillion spending power and make it happen, man.
We're gonna jump on that, and like he said it completely the truth, because the Jewish kids that I know, I got Jewish friends, I got Jewish colleagues. I can tell you from young, they're talking about economics in their house. They don't have a major cheat code. You know, we could say you don't run around and say, oh, it's cooked. It's cooked. We can't do anything. It's a part of their conversation with economics, and we have to take that same conversation and put it into our communities. And that means by investing into our communities and not isolating those that have success in our communities that are trying to come back and share that success with us by building our communities up. Don't isolate them folks. Get there and talk to them. Because as we can say, in other communities that do have economic power, they don't do that. They don't do that. They don't isolate the ones that are successful. And like he said, it's a part of their culture. That's the biggest difference. Let's make it a part of ours. That's why he's starting this Money Monday series. Dame, let me jump. But listen, brother, none but respect and love. Let me connect you
brother.
with the people
Appreciate
out
you.
of Westchester. And let me get some, you know. And listen, when they start giving them black developers hard time up there in Westchester, we're gonna start putting the politicians on blast. No more
exactly. Because that's how we going. We gotta start with real estate. Start with the black developers, bringing the black developers in to help us get black jobs and building these to and it will funnel down, you know. And we have to start doing, because that's how Atlanta created more black millionaires than any other city, because he let the developers come in and develop Atlanta. He gave black developers opportunity to develop Atlanta when it was booming. The airport, when they was building the airport, the mayor made sure black developers got contracts. Come on, man. The blueprint is there. We just got to do it.
We saw the players, just our time to run it. Brother, it's always a pleasure. And I need to see you out there in hold on, I need to see you out there in DC next year too. Because like I said, New York was not out there.
I took a year off, man. I'm gonna start coming out and getting out, man. I had to just relax my body,
bro. Not up in Albany. I need you up at Congressional Black Caucus, because New York was not up there last year.
They wasn't? Really? Wow.
I told you, Georgia, New Jersey, I told you, compare it to the tunnel. When everybody brought their neighborhood to the party, our neighborhood was not out there at the party, brother.
We're not doing it like we did it before, man. We're not doing it. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening.
Somebody got to carry the torch behind Ringgold. That I had an older black person tell me, man. They said back when Rangel and Patterson in those days.
Oh, that's a whole different story. They was down there deep.
You know, but let me run though, man. Much love.
All right, brother.
Dave.
One love, man. Brother. Thank you, brother. Have a blessed night.
You too.
Have a blessed night. Thank you, sir. And let's thank my brother. Give him a hand, and thank everybody that took their time. This is the premiere Monday show, and we're going to talk about Money Mondays. And I hope y'all enjoyed the conversation. If you wanted to, someone posted about donating. PayPal is Black Westchester online at Gmail. Black Westchester online at Gmail for PayPal. So if anybody wanted to donate, I thought I saw somebody they could donate and keep it going. We are here making it happen on our own. This is an independent newspaper. Go to blackwestchester.com, blackwestchester.com to check us out. Check out the articles that we have on blackwestchester.com. And don't forget, we have a whole week of shows coming up. We got tomorrow. We got Balling with the Budget. I'm on tomorrow, and I talk about yes, I will. Yes, I will. We got Balling with the Budget tomorrow, and that's when we talk about good sense. The subject tomorrow is 5 cents. I'm talking 5 cents colognes that every man need in their closet. 5 cents, and we're going to talk about that. Here's one of them. Fresh Avenue, Coco Morado. This is a compliment getter, and we're going to have this. This is crazy right here. So we're discussing 5 cents every man should have in his collection, to be that perfect Black masculine man. Right. And then on Wednesdays, we got Wellness Wednesdays, where we talk about health and wellness and mental clarity. Thursdays is Motivational Thursday. It is self-explanatory. We talk about issues. How do we motivate ourselves? How do we make sure that we are in good mental health? And Friday morning is the morning tea, where I go over news articles that's on Black Westchester magazine throughout the week, blackwestchester.com. And then we started all off on Sunday with the People Before Politics radio show with me and my partner in crime, AJ Woodson. And then we started back off, and hopefully my sister will be back on Mondays, the Elevation Nation with Tasha Young. So hope she'll be back at 6 o'clock. She's out here campaigning and making sure some these elected officials get their signatures to get on the ballot. So let's all pray she has it over so she could come back and get back on her show on Mondays at 6. So thank you again, everybody, man, and thank you for watching. And I hope that I hope that y'all enjoyed this show, because we're trying to bring more, trying to talk about the issues with a Black point of view and talk about finance, because you know what was very key. Everybody is really stressing about Trump, and they're stressing about Trump, but I believe personally, that God has given us all the tools to be an independent nation. We are the most educated Black people in the world. We make good money overall as Black people, and we have a spending power of $1.5 trillion. I'm going to say that again. We got a spending power of $1.5 trillion. Do you know that there are some countries that operate each year, their budget to operate is $1.5 trillion? So we spend, we consume on things, on things, what some countries cost to exist. So we spend, we're a country within ourselves. We are just not spending the $1.5 trillion correctly. We shouldn't have to boycott Target, because we should have our own Targets. We should have our own Walmarts, right? We should have our own, some type of Amazon. We should have our own hotels. We shouldn't have to beg for no DEI for us to be part of this. We should be able to have our own institutions. And this is why I wanted to bring people on and talk about money and talking about building institutions and building businesses, because this is what we need right now. You know, Pharaoh has let us go, brothers and sisters, and Pharaoh is going to continue to let us go. But we can't allow some politicians to put fear and doom and gloom in our heart. We have to begin to do for ourselves and not worry about the government doing for us and giving us and all this other stuff. We have to start doing for ourselves. So I want to thank you again. I want to thank everybody again for definitely joining us this time, because we're about to get out of here. And may you have a black-tastic rest of the day. May it be black-tastic. Is the stress what after the last administrator? Maybe we or they be less stressed. Yeah, right? Right? So may y'all have a black-tastic day, and remember, God is in your vegetables. And hope your day is a blessed one. And we are out of here. Peace.
Are you tired of living paycheck to paycheck while others build lasting wealth? Introducing Money Mondays, the show that's changing how families think about finances forever. Each week, we break down the strategies and mindsets that create generational wealth. We're not just talking about getting rich, we're talking about building a legacy. Join us every Monday and take the first step toward transforming your family's financial future. Money Mondays. Because true wealth isn't measured in years, but in generations.